Welcome to the Bldng Legacies podcast, where nothing is off the table. This platform was designed as a vehicle to bridge the wealth gap between rich and poor by teaching financial literacy and giving you the keys to success. Discussing business, culture, entertainment, investing, and finance. Bldng Legacies, one brick at a time. What's going on, E?
What's up, my brother? How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm chilling. But anyway, this is part 2 of our introduction. You know, I got a lot of feedback, some comments from the different social sites that we got, and just people directly telling me that they were, you know, they was thrilled to see us come together on that introduction part. A lot of people was asking me, what was it like with our transition, you know? After doing all the time that we did, our transition to coming home, and how were we able to overcome if it was any challenges and be able to start our own businesses. So a lot of feedback I got from that, you know, so I wanted us to just wrap up our introduction of people to out there with, we already told them where we came from. We already told them about how long we've been incarcerated. We already told them about how we surpassed the recidivism rate, you know, and we didn't become a victim of that because that's serious, you know. Yeah. You know, like myself, I was on the edge a lot of times since I've been out here, you know. Luckily, I let my strength guide me, and I used to call you and used to be like, yo, you got to stay on this side. Don't go the other way. Right. And so I'm thankful for that. But anyway, people wanted to know about how it was for us when we came home in the transition, whether it was as a shock or not. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take that.
Yeah, you know, because actually that was on my mind initially anyway. I know, you know, we briefly spoke, you know, on, you know, about our experiences, man. And I just wanted to expand on it a little bit, you know, just get people, you know, more familiar with us as individuals and just our process and that transition from incarceration to the world. So for me, you know, like I tell people, man, you know, it was traumatic, right? In a way, because things have changed so much throughout the course of that time. So you trying to adjust and adapt, right, on the fly. Mm-hmm. And everything's moving so fast, right? So you have to keep up. You don't have time necessarily to just sit back and just kind of just observe the world turn. You got to get in the midst, you know, and move with the movement, man. So with me, when I came home, you know, initially, you know, I had a lot of things, you know, I had to do. You know how it is. You know, you got to get your ID. You got to get, you know, driver's license. You know, that was a priority for me because of where I live. You know, I need to commute to work, you know, back and forth. So that was a priority. So just going through that experience, and it's funny because, you know, I haven't drove a car, right, in a long time, you know, but it's like riding a bike. But, you know, you have those little jitters, you're a little nervous behind the wheel, you know, you're like, man, can I still do this? You know what I mean? But after a few minutes, you're like, okay, I got this. So that was my experience when I was even looking at a vehicle. I was a little nervous, like getting in it. Man, I hope I hope I still could do this. You know what I mean? And but, you know, everything was smooth. You know what I mean? So luckily for me, you know, I had family that was able to assist me with, you know, moving to a different state. You know, I don't know too much about anything. So I had, you know, my cousins showed me, okay, taking me here, taking me there. You know, obviously being on supervised release, you know, having to deal with that, with the probation officer and their demands, right? So, so that experience, so you're trying to juggle all of these different things. And like I said, the world is revolving around you. So, you know, you got to find a job, you know, you got to make money. Because like I mentioned before, you have friends, you know, that, you know, like I said, you know, initially that's just the culture, man. You come home, you're a good man, you're an honorable man. Guys will, you know, make sure you got what you need to get started. A little something to say, you know, but like I mentioned, no one's going to take care of you. So
absolutely,
after about that initial 1 or 2 times, you get those blessings. You on your own.
You're on your.
Yeah. You're on your own, right? So I've known this from past experiences. This wasn't my first rodeo. So I knew
Mhm.
coming home that you get that initial embrace, that initial care package. Then now, okay, what you want to do, what you're going to do. So, like, okay. So for me, upon my release, I'm a certified personal trainer. Those that don't know,
Mhm.
I have education hours in substance abuse counseling. So I actually was able to get involved with both. I utilized both. I was working in the gym. I was working at LA Fitness. That's another story, but it was a manager there. I couldn't necessarily, we didn't vibe. So
Mhm.
before I jeopardized myself, I said, you know what, I'm leaving here. You know what I mean? Because I felt it was going left. And so I just briefly, I was working in this mattress factory, right? Like, I mean, this was like hard labor work. Like anybody that worked in a mattress factory,
I was there.
right?
I was in one.
Right, and I was unloading trucks. Listen,
Mhm.
these king size mattresses, man, like feel like 1,000 pounds. So, just trying to get my legs under me, man. I'm taking what I could get. You know what I mean? Jobs was available. Like, so I was working at LA Fitness. I worked in a mattress factory. But funny story about that is, I remember my first paycheck, right? And I tell guys this, they kind of laugh a little bit, man, because it's almost like when I was in a mattress factory, it's almost like a movie. You know how like at the end of Friday, everybody's in a line. You got the secretary handing out checks, right? It was weird. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like a movie. So I'm waiting. So I get my check. It's in an envelope. So I walked, to my vehicle. So naturally, I opened the envelope and I looked at the amount of money, right? And I'm like, man, I worked all week, right?
Yeah, man.
I worked all week, hard labor, right? And I'm looking at the amount of money. I had to sit there about 30 minutes, right? And then I'm looking at everybody else. If everybody is Friday, everybody's happy, it seemed like. I'm saying, clearly, they made more than I did, right?
There's a disconnect somewhere.
There's a disconnect somewhere. I'm like, clearly, they made more than I did. So I sat there, and I wanted to go back in there, actually, and be like, yo, listen, this ain't right. This ain't adding up. So I was like, man, this is crazy. How I'm going to manage with this? Like, what I'm going to do? I didn't know, because coming from the lifestyle we come from, I could make that check in probably 2-3 minutes. You get
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely.
so now I'm trying to figure out how am I going to budget this? What I'm going to do with this? You get what I'm saying? So that was kind of funny to me, man. Like, and like I said, I was observing everyone else. I'm like, wait a minute, man. I wanted to go ask you, how much did you get paid? You too happy. Like, you get what I'm saying? I'm over here depressed. So, but that's that was another moment for me, because even when I was looking at that money and trying to figure out what I was going to do, I never entertained the thought of just saying, to hell with it, man. I can't do this. I say, you know what? I know what I got to do. Number one, I got to find another job.
Yeah.
But number two, I'm going to need more hours, and then I got to figure out. So that was my thought process, figuring out how I'm going to make this work. You get what I'm saying? This new life work. You get what I'm saying? Because at that time, I was maybe home about a month, maybe.
Yeah.
And a half. So I'm trying to figure things out, right? And when I was incarcerated, that was a concern for me. Like, okay, we got to be realistic. How are we going to manage with a new lifestyle, with a new income that we're not necessarily accustomed to, right? Now you have to budget. When you're in the street, you're not on a budget.
Absolutely. I just told somebody that the other day too. You're right.
Like, budget, like, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So, but now when you're working, you have to budget, right? So that was a new experience for me, man. And yeah, but I stayed persistent. I was able to get more hours there, but it still wasn't adding up. So I said, you know what? Let me utilize my other certificates. So I called a friend of mine, actually a friend of mine that I was incarcerated with, his child's mother's here. He introduced me to her, said, look, you go down there, call her, she can help set you up. So I called her. She's probably heard it in my voice, like, man. So I said, listen, I need, I'm trying to find a new situation. So she was like, okay, what do you, because she's connected. So she was like, what do you have? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do? What do you know how to do? I said, well, I'm a certified personal trainer. I said, also I have my education hours in substance abuse counseling. I wasn't get the actual license to actually counsel, but I had the certification hours, which would allow me entry-level position. Then you acquire the hours, and then you could ultimately sit and become an actual counselor. So, which those of us know that was in Raybrook and other institutions, they offered what's called KSAP. Right? So it's a 9-month course, about 350 hours, give or take. So she was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get back to you, which she did. And I got the utmost respect for her. Her word was her bond, right? So she hit me back. She was like, listen, I know a place they're hiring, entry-level position. The pay, obviously it's entry-level. It's not, but it's better than what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
So I called them immediately. Because, one thing about me, I'm not a procrastinator, right? You put me onto something that, and I see it, it has some value, I'm on it, right? So I got on it, right? And then went for the interview. They hired me. And then the thing about me, like, I'm always looking for opportunities. So that very same day, as I'm leaving the interview, they hired me on the spot, right? You go through like a series of questions because you're dealing with almost like the public. So they want to know what's your mindset, your attitude toward individuals with substance abuse issues. Like, what's your attitude toward them? Are you easily manipulated? Because, we come from the streets. We know individuals with substance abuse habits can be real manipulative, right? They accustomed to that and getting what they want. Yeah. So I went through a series of questions. So my background in the streets actually allowed me to operate in that environment because I seen it all. I know the game. You know what I'm saying? I know the game. They go come to you with their game.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so they hired me. So the director, once I left the office, I sat down. They must have told me, yeah, we like him. We're going to hire him. So the director came, congratulations, welcome. So I asked him immediately, I said, yo, do y'all offer overtime here? He was like, yeah, this is a 24-hour, around-the-clock institution, so we need staff constantly. So I impressed him, too, because we had a conversation later. I was there 2.5 years at that job, and he mentioned that to me. He was like, I've never seen that before. Someone, like, right, as soon as they get hired, they inquiring about overtime. Like, some people just want to do their 40 and get home.
Absolutely.
But me, I had a vision, a mission, and a purpose. So, obviously, it needed some more income. So, which was a good thing because they offered plenty of overtime. I abused it for about 2.5 years. And, so that was a good experience, man. And so I was doing that job, and then just trying to save my little money and just staying focused. You know what I mean? Working 80 hours a week, 70 to 80 hours, literally. Anybody that know me know that I don't fairy tale.
Yeah,
70 to 80 hours a week for about 2.5 years straight. They thought something was wrong with me. It's a funny story. My coworkers, right? Because one thing about me, I got a certain energy level, right? Like that's incomparable in my mind, right? And it shows. Like when I'm amongst average people, they was like concerned about me, right? They seem like, you work so much. Like, do you got a family? Like, you got children? I'm like, no, my children grown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, right now, I got a purpose for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was able to take full advantage of that. And then ultimately when I left there, then I started my own business. So that helped me out a lot. But the transition from incarceration to freedom, like I said, it's traumatic because it's it's like instant shock. It's like, you understand, it's a culture shock because you've been in a certain environment for X amount of years. Mm-hmm. Then you come home to a new world, a whole new world. Then
absolutely.
So now you're trying to adapt to it, as much as you can. You don't want to look odd. I remember going into Walmart, right, and kind of nervous, right? I'm thinking everybody watching me. I felt like I had like a sign on my forehead, like I'm a convict. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man.
And people were probably not paying me no attention, but this is the way I felt walking in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was just a weird experience for me. And I've spoken to others, and I'm sure you could attest to it, that you feel the same way when you're in an environment with a lot of people, everybody moving fast. You're a little nervous.
Absolutely.
You don't want to look at nobody. You know what I'm saying? You may feel like, man, I don't want to look at this. No, I don't want them to get the wrong idea. You know what I mean? You just
absolutely
a whole lot of things going in your head that you just feel like you're the odd person out.
Absolutely.
And
people are not paying you no mind, though.
Yeah, they're not paying you no mind. This is all in your head.
Absolutely.
Then I remember going to New York, man. This was the craziest thing ever. I get off the plane. I take the train. That was the experience in and of itself. Being on public transportation, right, after all of that time.
Yeah.
Nothing changed about it. Nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? You got the panhandler. You got the brothers. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, this is exactly the same as I remember it. And I get off the train on 125th Street. Unbelievable. Just the traffic. So I'm nervous. People walking past me so fast, it's like they spinning me around. And I remember like just looking at the environment from a different perspective now, because I remember there was a time when I thrived in that environment.
Yeah.
You understand? Mm-hmm. Now I'm nervous. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I'm a little nervous, like, wow. And I'm saying to myself, like, wow, I used to love this. Not saying I don't love
fast pace, yeah.
But I'm not saying I don't love the people, man, that will become just the pace. Obviously, we still got brothers and sisters, man, that's, addicted to whatever they're on, man. And you're seeing a lot of that on 125th Street. Brothers, sisters leaning over, they panhandling. But now, as I'm older, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Like, wow, like I used to thrive and I used to love this. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to belabor the point, man. But that was just briefly just some things I experienced with my transition. You know what I mean? And I'm going to get into some more because I got like some more things.
Hey, I already know, man. It's like you listen to the podcast. It's like there's story after story after story because, there's so much stories to be told.
Right.
Especially from the perspectives that we come from. And, someone asked me when they was talking to me, they said, y'all got an educational channel or a financial channel or a channel about history. And I said, really, I don't want to pigeonhole us into any one particular corner because for me and my partner, I said, Bldng Legacies encompass a broad range of things. It's not always finance. So, I said we want to get to the point where we're talking to athletes, where we're talking to entertainers, where we're talking to average people who like ourselves, who created businesses, or those that's thriving in business. I mean, and even the everyday working man or woman that's getting through it because they also are striving as well. I know you can't be all things to all people, but I think that if we pigeonhole ourselves into one direction, then we're going to miss a lot of people that's going to be able to get the message that we're trying to bring out. So Bldng Legacies encompass a broad spectrum of things. But I'm going to tell you, I couldn't wait to come home, man. I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
He was there with me. I couldn't wait.
I remember the day.
I was stressing, right? I was stressing. They came out with the chicken pops. I said, hold on. I don't think they trying to let nobody go. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I waited all that time to get here. And when I was changing clothes to get out, I mean, that was the nervous that I've ever been, right? And all the time that I was down. Once I changed and put on regular clothes and I'm waiting to walk out, man, I was like jittery. You know, I was shaking. I was nervous. I was like, man, I don't know why I'm so nervous. I thought I waited for this day for so long. But anyway, when we got out and the guy he drove me to the airport in Philly. And when he took me to the airport in Philly, one of my Cody and a brother I grew up with, they came, they gave me a little bit of cash from my pockets. And we talked for a while, took some pictures. It was nice. It was nice to see them. But when I walked in the terminal, now you got to understand, before I left the prison, they said, here, take this card. Everything that was on your account is on this card. So I'm like, card? Hold on, what you mean is on the card? Okay, a card. They said, well, just do X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. And went through one ear and out the other. So anyway, I got the tickets. He let me into the airport. And when I walked through the airport, man, it seemed like it was a city all by itself. Right? When I walked through the airport, I didn't know what to do. I'm asking people, okay, I need to check in, or what do I need to do to check my bags in? So they're telling me to use the machine. I'm saying, use a machine? Yeah, just go use the machine. So, okay, I went over to the machine, and I'm trying to compartmentalize it in my brain, push this. So I said, I didn't have enough. I saw two sisters over there, and I went over and I said, listen, man, I'm not even going front. I just came home, and I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And the first thing they said was, we can tell, right? And I said, well, why can you, what makes you, what made you know that? And they was like, first of all, you look healthy, the way you looking around and everything, we just assume. And one of them asked, well, how long you was gone? I told them the amount of time, they just couldn't believe it, man. Really, it was almost like they was shaking their head like, wow, this is ridiculous. Right. But, that's another story in and of itself. But so they got me to check through. I checked in and everything. And I thought the worst was over, right? Until we had to do a layover in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I went to the Atlanta airport, man. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it, man. Right. I couldn't believe it, but I was just like you. People was bustling and going and moving, and the sounds of everything. You got to get on the train, and then you got to get over there. And I was like so nervous. I've never been that nervous before. Right. And then I finally got there. I saw my mother, saw my father, my brother, and and my sister. Everything was good. You know what I'm saying? Everything was good. But leading up to, like you said, when I walked into grocery stores, like the Walmart, different grocery stores, it blew my mind how big and how much of the selection and the variety of different foods and everything was out. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, my wife, one time my wife came down and she was buying things for me, and she was like, you're going to need this, you're going to need that, get some eggs. And I picked up her eggs, and she said, you like these eggs? I said, yeah, why would you mean they eggs? She said, no, these is $8. These is $9. So
you got the organic eggs.
I got the wrong eggs, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, hold on. I didn't know that it was a different price for eggs, right? Something so simple as that, right. That it was just really taking me aback. It was really getting to me. And I was like, So there were times when I was by myself, and the first time I had to use my card. So the person was like, okay, just go ahead, put your card in. Oh, you can't put it in, swipe it. So I'm saying to myself, swipe it, put it in. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to do. So they showing me step by step. And while they were showing me, after a while, I caught on. You know what I'm saying? I got the feeling of it. But every day was a struggle after doing that much time to come back and, and just be reacclimated into society. It really was hard, and the time was hard. But I tell a lot of people, they ask me, what was the most, what was right? Do you remember the most? And that transition from coming home, being reacclimated to society, getting on my feet was one of the most difficult times. Right. In my reentry, because it was just like a fish out of water, and but I also like to, I like to look at myself in the mirror and congratulate myself because out of that, a lot of people whom I know they came home to, they either returned, or they went back to what they know best or they didn't fit in,
Right.
and so I kind of pat myself, man, for making sure that no, for being strong and saying, you know what, I'm going to see this through. No matter how hard it is, I'm going to see it through. So I'm like you. Look, man, I've probably been either fired or quit at least 15, 20 jobs since I've been home. You know it. Every time I talk to you, I got a new spot, right? And people look at me. People like, yo, hold on, you quitting? And people out here trying to find jobs and you quitting? I didn't understand it at first because I'm just coming home. But I didn't understand what they meant. They meant like, yo, after all that time, you complaining about the amount of money you get pennies on the dollar in prison.
Right.
And you worrying about the $10, $11, $12 you getting. But in my mind, I understood the difference. But in my mind, I'm saying, what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do with that? It's impossible for me to survive or live with that.
Right.
But I was like you, man. I figure I can get another job. I get 2 jobs. And then when I worked that job, I didn't really see the money on the paycheck because they took that in taxes. I said, something. Hold on.
Word up, they robbing you.
They stop the presses, man. You mean to tell me I go get another job and those 40 hours I work, most of it is in taxes? You snatching that from me? I said, no, something got to give. No, sir, I couldn't keep living like that. So, but luckily now I'm to the point, man, where I understand it and I make it work for me. I make what I do work for me while I'm striving to get everything else done. So that was one of the most shocking things for me, man, when I came home. Just being reacclimated to society, and that was something.
Right, and it's traumatic, man. And I remember a brother was saying, man, because he done time in prison, and he actually came to one of the institutions I was in, usually, to speak. Right, he came back to speak, and he said the 2 most traumatic times for him was when he went in and when he got out, and people they don't take into account the trauma of release. You just think you're being released. You just think it's this euphoric moment, but not necessarily, because you're trying to figure out what it is you're going to do. You want to do right. You want to stay on the right path, but you want to make a living for yourself.
Absolutely.
And let me tell you a funny story. I was released from previous incarceration, right? So I'm in a work release facility, and they give you, you got to find a job, right? That's a condition of your release. It's a work release facility. So same thing. They give me a bus pass, and prior to that, I ain't been on public transportation. I was incarcerated, but prior to that, I'm driving everywhere. So they give me a Metro card, right?
Yeah.
I think prior to that, last time I got on a public transportation, we used tokens. So they give me the card, but then nobody tell me how to use it. They just give you the card, right? So I'm like, okay. I ain't even think to ask nobody. I just take the card. This is the funny part. I go on the bus. It's like 7 something in the morning. It's proud. I'm on by Webster Projects, 3rd Avenue. It's crowded. So people are getting on the bus before me. So I know I don't know how to use this card. So I'm trying to look over the shoulder of the person before me to see what they're doing, but I can't really see. So I'm like, man. So when I get up there to do it,
I'm holding up the line, man.
Oh man, yo, it was embarrassing. I'm putting the Metro card in the slot where the receipt or the transfer come out. So I'm trying to, I put it in like one way and it ain't going. So I'm like, maybe it go this way. You're trying to figure it out. The bus driver looking at me like what I'm saying. And nobody
serious.
Exactly. I know he was like, yo, what, he was from a bunch of rock, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of looking, after I try to do it, I'm turning the card around. And then I'm looking at him now like, yo, you just gonna watch me? You know what I'm saying? And then over time, he said, no, it goes here. And then I'm holding up the line. People were sitting there looking at me. I was embarrassed. I'm like, wow.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I wanted to just like shout, like, man, I'm not stupid. Like, I just I don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a funny thing that stuck with me. And this was years ago. I remember that. I said, wow, man, it's so many things that you have to learn. Some of the simplest things, right? That to other people, it's simple, but to you like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Absolutely.
So when you mentioned, your experience with the card, I mean, it made me think of that. Like, man, I experienced something similar. Yeah, but that's the process. Then you learn, you know what I mean? And but like I said, because of my previous experiences with incarceration, I knew at least this time, okay, kind of to take my time a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
said, learn, observe.
Mm-hmm.
You got to observe everything. But luckily for me, I had, good family, friends, man. That was very important. And that's very important for anyone coming out of prison after a substantial amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
The world is changing like every 5 years. So, like I mentioned, I did 13 and a half years on my last sentence. So I had, people to kind of aid me. And I was able, like I mentioned, the friend that helped put me on with a job, like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about it. You know what I mean? That was a blessing. I'm forever thankful to her, you know what I mean? Because I was kind of stranded, because I'm like, man, I'm working all these hours lifting these mattresses, these king size mattresses all day. And then, they are, because when I came home, I'm working out, I had some size on me. They looked at me like a buck, yeah, we got,
Yeah.
yeah, give him all of the heavy
Yeah,
mattresses.
yeah.
So I'm like, man, this is crazy. So I'm like, I can't stay here. You know what I mean? And so I maintained my focus. I said, you know what? I'm going to apply myself here, wherever I need to maintain, so I could move forward. You know what I mean? So yeah, but it's an interesting experience, man. Just being released from prison, man. But obviously, we wouldn't trade it for nothing. You know what I mean?
No, and we're on the conversation of that. I mean, something so simple as just having a bank account, right? I mean, because when I was 19, I did a bid. You know what I mean? I did 2 years. Um, Came home, you understand? And then it was like I still, even though I was working, I wasn't really in the groove of things. So, I've been incarcerated from 94. So therefore, it's like coming home was just like even the start of, I would go so far as say being a responsible adult. You know what I'm saying? Because, man, I never had a bank account, B, and I'm not afraid to say that. Like, so I had to go get the bank account, start that. The beautiful thing why I'm so hell bent on education, financial literacy, because I know that I didn't know all these things in my teens and in my early 20s. I didn't know all the things that I know now, and I wasn't implementing. Just imagine when you share all the things that you know now with someone that's in their teens and in their 20s and in their 30s, if they implement these principles in this process, how far they can be by the time they're our age.
Right.
So that's why I'm so heavy on the financial literacy side. And I exercise a lot of the principles that we learned in there. That's why I was able to, when I came home, my mother gave me an old Taurus she had. It was a 97 Taurus. It only had about 80,000 miles on it, man. They was barely driving it. Right. So in my mind, I'm like, I know I did all this time I came home. Man, I got to rock the Taurus. But, my mother used to be like, okay, give it back.
Right.
But it's taking me everywhere. I mean, I'm all around town. It's taking me everywhere, man. And then when I utilized the principles that we was learning, how to work on your credit, how to make sure you open up this card and you make sure you pay on time and you get this and you pay on time. Surprisingly so that then when I came home 2017, at the end of 2018, I was already getting my own car, man. You feel what I'm saying? A man who's been gone for 24 years, So I try to bestow and I try to share a lot of this information with people. But one of the main things I have learned individually is that I think the connection of being incarcerated and sharing information, somehow a person has to be able to disconnect the two and separate the two. Because if they keep concentrating on the fact that you was incarcerated, how could you possibly know this? Like, how could you possibly know this? Or why should I listen to you for this? You know, it sometimes discourages you from sharing the information because it's always is not prejudged. I want to say it's predicated on the fact that, okay, well, what makes you knowledgeable in that? I mean, I've been doing this forever. Why would you know?
Right.
You know, and sometimes it discouraged me. But I'm so glad we got this platform because I want to take it as far as it can go and as huge as it can go. And let me reiterate again, I'm not certified in anything, right? Yes, I'm an author. You know, I consider myself one of the best authors that's out here. It just ain't been recognized like that.
You should, yeah.
You know, I'm not on the New York Times yet, but hopefully on the Amazon bestsellers. But remember, the name of the book is Eyes of Deception.
Absolutely.
So by Stan C. Gilliam. But yeah, you know, I'm glad we got this platform because with our passion of sharing information and the people we're going to bring on to share the information, I think it's going to be a beautiful union there. And then I think now when I begin to share information, whether it be family or friends, they'll be more readily to listen. They'll be more readily to understand when they see the engagement between those who are certified, those who actually live it and know it, and what we know. And as far as learning all together, I think they'll be more understandable. So that's my hope for this podcast.
Right. Yeah, and I think the message is going to resonate just because of the genuineness and sincerity. So, and for me, you know, like friends and family as well, sometimes people are doubtful of what it is you may know because of your past history. So they're like, what do you know about this? And until, remember, we come from the culture of show and prove, right?
Absolutely.
So when you show and prove, that's when things turn around. That's when I think individuals are more receptive. Like and you got receipts. Like I could show you like my credit score.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, that's something I could show you. Like you get
absolutely.
If I'm speaking about credit and how I did it, just coming home from prison, how I started, what I utilized. So, and actually, I had a good book. We had a lot of literature on credit, and I've implemented a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And it worked. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It worked to the T, right?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually we're going to talk about that, just the things I was able to acquire with credit.
Absolutely.
Just coming home from prison. I'm talking about like, so then now people, their antennas go up and say, okay, he must know what he's talking about. Because it's not just all talk.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So where you actually walking the walk. You're talking the talk and you're walking the walk. So that, you know, that's what really resonates with the people.
Absolutely.
You showing and proving. So I experienced the same thing with people that's very close to you because all they know of you is the streets. And then it's a big misconception about guys coming from prison because, you know, you have those brothers, right? They learn some things. They learn a couple big words.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they come home imposing themselves on people, right? As if everyone else is inferior as far as intellectually.
Well, I think I'm guilty of that in a sense too. I think my presentation and how I was trying to deliver the message, it could almost be viewed as, oh, you think you know everything, or so I had to learn over a gradual period of time what people really, a lot of people wasn't saying, and we don't want to hear what you're saying. But this is what it sounds like you saying, like why we don't know this and why we don't know that. And I think my delivery wasn't right. So I'm glad that I went through that too, because now when I share information, I share it as not to be like, you don't know this, or why you don't use this? It's like,
right,
you've seen this, or have you heard about this? Can you check this out? It's a different delivery now. So you're right. We come from that culture. People want to see. We more of a seeing culture
Right.
than hearing it, man.
Absolutely. So yeah, I experienced, man, the same thing, man. People feel that you know everything but because you've learned things, right? Being in prison, if you are conscious, you utilize that time
Absolutely.
to learn things, right? Because a brother told me one time. He said prison could be one of two things. It could be a fool's playground,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be an institution of learning.
Absolutely.
Depends on your wisdom, right?
Absolutely.
And for me, I used it as an institution of learning. I was never without a book. I was never engaged in something that was going to help to enlighten me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when you are released, you got people out here, they trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. They ain't got time necessarily to read a book, right? Not to say that they can't read.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I understand that now that I'm home.
That's the system. The system is created for you to stay in the will.
You in the will.
Absolutely.
Right. So when you come home, you're having these conversations, especially with people you love. Sometimes out of that love, it seems like you're imposing on them because you want to help to improve their situation. You're like, listen, I've learned this. It's not that, you're just...
I know it and you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But listen, I know something. Like, but like I'm going to reiterate this again. Until you show and prove, it's going to fall on deaf ears. When you show and prove, that's when they get on the train. No doubt about it. They say, oh, okay, he know what he's talking about. They're more inclined to trust you. Right? They say, okay, especially you show and prove over a considerable amount of time. Like, because for all they know, it's just that it's gibberish. Because we've had brothers that came home talking and then they do not implement any of it or manifest or manifest anything materially. It just becomes just talk. So I've experienced that, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. You know what I mean? But like you said, man, sometimes it's the delivery too, because that's something I need to work on. Because these are people that you love, so you try to you're almost trying to shake them. Like, absolutely. Like, listen, I know something. I've learned something that can help improve our situation. Don't resist it. Like, so man, so that's just something I think we all experience. And something we just have to get over. And then sometimes you gotta leave people behind too. You know what I mean? Unfortunately.
Sometimes you gotta you gotta just concentrate on you. And I've been told that, right? I've been told that from somebody that's special to me, that listen, I've watched you and I see you bend over backwards for everybody. But when it comes to you, you tiptoe when it comes to you. You don't give yourself that same time, that same energy that you trying to bestow upon everyone else. And I try to say it like this, man. Growing up, man, we lived a crazy life. First of all, we were involved in, the destruction of our own communities. We were involved in a part of poisoning our own people, because we all have relatives that fell victim to that era in the 80s. If you fell victim to it one way or the other. Right. And we was a direct cause of that. We were in the middle of that. You know what I'm saying? So we have to take ownership of that. And the violence and the things that we did when we was younger and how we was running around. I try to tell people that I try to do so much good now because I'm trying to hopefully wipe away that stain that's on me, that I had on me about the past. You know what I'm saying? And the person said, you really can't get rid of your past. And you can't dwell on your past. If you dwell on your past, it's going to hinder you from moving forward to the future. Right. So you have to let it go. And my brother, he said a brilliant thing to me. He said, when you drive in a car, right, and you got that front glass, that front glass is big because you're looking everywhere, in front of you, on the side of you, you looking ahead. But when you look up at the rear view mirror, you're looking at things you leaving behind. You feel me? So he said, that's how you got to live this life.
Right.
The things that you did in the past, you got to leave it behind, and you got to look at that big window of the future.
Right.
So that's so I'm working on that too. It's a work in progress.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right.
So, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, and that's what this podcast is about. It's on all social platforms. It's everywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, Bldng Legacies, and this is our introduction to the world. This is our introduction to people. So we're gonna be coming with the first episode within the next week or two. And we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of this thing. You know, we just wanted for people to get to know who we are, where we come from, and hopefully we resonate with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't believe we are, because I think in today's climate, right, with the internet, you know, it's a lot of information and conversations, particularly in our culture, about financial literacy and, you know, and just being more aware. And I think that we're going to, with this platform, contribute, you know, significantly to the awareness, you know, like you mentioned earlier about financial literacy and the value and importance of it. You know what I mean? Because if your financial literacy is not really up to par, you'll end up in a situation constantly. You end up in debt, number one, which debt is the new slavery.
Not new debt, not good debt, bad debt.
Bad debt, right? Consumer debt. Let me be specific, in which most of us are in, consumer debt. We don't use debt as leverage, right?
Absolutely.
To acquire assets and generate income.
Yes.
We use debt, consumer debt, to purchase things that have no real value. Doesn't
or lose value. Absolutely.
Or lose value. It doesn't put a dime in our pocket, right? It gives us a momentary feeling, you know, that
you've accomplished something.
But it's short-lived. So it's consumer debt. So financial literacy is very important. And that's something I was on, man, for a while, just trying to understand, like I mentioned earlier, budgeting. I didn't know nothing about budgeting ever. I didn't have to live on a budget. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like that.
I think I'm still missing the mark on the budget and stuff. I'm not going to lie. Even though as much as I try to stay on it, I'm still missing the mark.
Because it's still a relatively new concept to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like budget, you know. But when you live in, you know, a legitimate lifestyle, if you don't budget, like I mentioned, you're going to end up in a situation and don't know how you got there. Or because you're mismanaging your finances, you're not prioritizing the way you should.
Mm-hmm.
So when you create a budget, it allows you to prioritize.
Absolutely.
And see where your money's going, right? So I had to learn that. I'm still learning that because, like you said, sometimes you slip back into old habits, and then you just get a little reckless.
Yeah. You have to, I need this. I want this.
Right.
You don't really need it. You really want it, right? Yeah.
Right. So I'm guilty of that, but good thing now I have the discipline, like, to catch myself. I'm not so impulsive as I used to be, because I used to be impulsive. I buy things I don't need. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Just, I could go with you. You could say, yo, E, man, come with me. I'm gonna go buy a pair of sneakers. I'll buy a pair too. Like, I had no, I just, so, or whatever it may be. I might go with you. You may want to go to the jewelry store. I'll leave out of there with something. Yeah, I had no plans on it. It was just impulse. But now I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't need that. You understand?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like I said, with this platform, man, we're going to really bring some value, some valuable information, some enlightenment from our personal experiences. Like you mentioned, we're going to have others on that can help with some information, valuable information for us, as well as the viewers, the audience. So like I mentioned before, ride with us. It's going to be a great ride. It's going to be a great ride.
It's going to be a beautiful ride, and I'm feeling good. I haven't felt this good about something in a long time. So this is like I said, I enjoy it with you, E. I enjoy giving our time and trying to bring this information. So this is the end of our introduction of who we are, what we've been through. Surely in episodes to come, we'll dwell back into our personal lives, and questions may come up again for us, and we'll dwell back in that. But episode one is coming in a few weeks, and we're gonna really start peeling back the layers. All right. So as always, we thank y'all. BldngLegacies.com, Bldng Legacies podcast is on all platforms and on all social medias. We thank you guys for giving us the time, and as always, love.
Always love. Peace.